In 1973, a comic strip debuted in newspapers following the exploits of an orange cat. No, not that one. Heathcliff achieved, and continues to achieve, wide distribution across newspapers as he torments the town of Westfinster and its residents with his zany antics. Following the two separate cartoons in the 1980s, Heathcliff's popularity continued to grow, leading to, of course, video games. Just a few of them, but enough for us to take a look at. Lock up your fish, because it's a video game odyssey for Heathcliff.
You should realize you can win it with you.
Heathcliff was created in 1973 by George Gately. In the daily comic strip, Heathcliff gets up to all sorts of antics across the town of Westfinster, usually to the annoyance of his owners, Mr. and Mrs. Nutmeg, their grandson Iggy, or any of the other inhabitants of the town. Also, for anyone wondering, Heathcliff predates the first Garfield comic strip by 5 years, so he is technically the original Orange Cat in comics. Since Gately's nephew Peter Gallagher took over the strip in 1998, the comic has become famous for its... I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's humour that is some combination of surrealism, nonsense, and recurring meta jokes that aren't really jokes at all. There's his obsession with meat. Boy, he loves meat. Bubblegum, gravy robots, jumping into the air, and sometimes he just wears a helmet. Again, it's not like these strips are just random nonsense. They're clearly repeating specific motifs from which the humour is derived, but there's never the completion of a joke or payoff. It's just never-ending shenanigans with Heathcliff, day in, day out, and I don't hate it. It's just something that's truly unique. There were also some Heathcliff comic books released through Marvel Comics, with more typical comic book stories, which also makes him part of the Marvel multiverse. I assume he'll join the Avengers around the same time as Howard the Duck. Anyway, let's avoid going down the Heathcliff comic rabbit hole any further, lest we lose our minds. 1980 saw the release of the first Heathcliff cartoon, produced by Ruby Spears. The cartoon is essentially just Heathcliff being chased by either Spike, the neighbourhood dog, or the dog catcher, who wants to catch Heathcliff despite him being, you know, a cat. It has that feel of the Looney Tunes cartoons, but just not quite as good. Each 20-minute episode was broken down into 2 5-minute Heathcliff cartoons and 2 episodes of Dingbat and the Creeps, characters specifically created for the cartoon, which featured a vampire dog named Dingbat, a skeleton called Spare Rib, and a jack-o'-lantern called Nobody, getting into various shenanigans or something. It's not good either way. Season 2 replaced the Dingbat gang or whatever with episodes featuring another comic strip character, Marmaduke. When you think of Heathcliff cartoons, however, you'll probably think of the 1984 series, which is a much better feature and has that funky theme song.
Heathcliff, Heathcliff, no one should terrify their neighborhood.
In it, Heathcliff's hometown is more thoroughly established, and the supporting characters from the comics show up too, alongside new ones. Each episode was split into a Heathcliff segment, and a segment revolving around original creations, the Cadillac Cats, led by Riff Raff, getting into similar shenanigans. While both were set in the same town of Westfinster, Heathcliff and Riff Raff never met or crossed over, although some of the supporting characters would feature in both segments. While in the 1980 cartoon, Heathcliff was more akin to a Bugs Bunny character who defied the laws of reality to create visual gags and annoy people, the 1984 Heathcliff is more grounded, and when his pranks and mischief go too far, they backfire on him. Overall, the 1984 one is definitely the better cartoon. Also of note is that Heathcliff in both cartoons was voiced by Mel Blanc, the legendary voice of Bugs Bunny and other iconic Looney Tunes characters, and was also one of the last characters he provided the voices for.
But I've been home all day. My horoscope said it would be dangerous to go out.
Now's the time for us to get into the video games. The first one was released in 1984. Heathcliff, fun with spelling, for Atari 800 computers and Commodore 64. As you can probably guess, it's an educational game. Oh boy. My immediate question is, why would you want Heathcliff teaching your children how to spell? I don't think he even has the qualifications for that. Anyway, the game's premise has you play as Heathcliff as you are given a word to spell in a sentence at the top of the screen. Mice begin to fall from the pipes above you, and you must catch the mice holding the balloon with the letter on that you need. That's basically the whole game. The game has 7 skill levels with between 11 and 30 words in each level, so there's a lot of words I guess, but there's not too much difference in the difficulty between levels. I think the game is designed for young children between 6 and 9 years old, but I'm not sure how much educational value they would get out of it. Not to mention that there's very little gameplay, other than moving left to right, so I feel like kids would just get bored quickly and do something else. In my playthrough of every level, I encountered only one spelling mistake, one too many T's there guys, and a few questionable sentences. What, Cancel? The game does have a beginner and advanced mode, the only difference being that in beginner you can jump, which does nothing, and in advance you have to hold the fire button to pop a balloon, rather than just touch it. If you manage to get through all the words in a level, you get a certificate stating how well you did, which you can then print off and put on the fridge at home or something. The only differences between the Atari 800 and Commodore 64 versions is that the Atari 800 version has a title screen, whereas the C64 one does not, so that's an easy distinction. All in all, fun, with spelling, is pretty bland, and I question its educational content, but this is the early days of educational video games, where nobody probably had a clue just how the medium could contribute to learning. The next video game starring Heathcliff didn't come out until 2010. Surprisingly, out of all the games that were made based on franchises, no one ever bothered with Heathcliff in those 26 years. Why they did in 2010 is a mystery too. There was no Heathcliff Renaissance, no new TV shows, nor increase in popularity. I assume someone just got the license for a reasonable price. Anyway, here's Heathcliff Frantic Foto, released for the Nintendo DS. It's a spot the difference game. Each level presents a Heathcliff panel on the top and bottom screens, and you have to point out the differences on the bottom using the touchscreen before the time runs out. There's no unique twist on the classic game, it delivers just what it promises, I guess. You do get some items to help you reveal differences or stop the timer, and there's a minigame every 10 levels that is a whack-a-mole style game that has you tapping mice on the touchscreen while leaving Heathcliff alone. Get enough mice and you get a new item for use in the levels proper. As a spot the difference game, I suppose it works quite well. There's 120 different comics that randomly show up, and each one has multiple differences, so even if the same panel shows up again, there will be new variations of it. Also, it would have been nice for the comic panels to have the captions with them, although, as we've mentioned, this might not help comprehending whatever is going on in them. There's not much else to say really. Frantic Foto is a spot the difference game that anyone can play, and the variety of having different differences in each comic is good, but there's nothing really new or exciting about it being in video game form. The next video game also came out in 2010. Heathcliff, the Fast and the Furriest, was released for the Nintendo Wii, and yes, it's a racing game as that pun in the title suggests. The story, yes there is a story, involves a race of alien cats called the Alley Cats who arrive on Earth to conquer it or whatever. They kidnap Heathcliff's girlfriend Sonia and brainwash the rest of Heathcliff's friends. Why don't they brainwash Heathcliff as well? Telling him that he must challenge them to a race, as is their custom, to save his friends and the world, I guess. The story is told through a few comic panels that accompany each new world you unlock, but as you might expect, you're not getting much of a story in a cast game. Set across 4 worlds, you must complete a championship in each one, composed of 4 races, to win the championship and free your friends, which will unlock them as playable characters. The game is, to put it bluntly, bad, in all aspects. Graphics are terrible. Remember, this is a Nintendo Wii game, not on the PS2. The controls are terrible. You can use the motion controls with your Wii remote to tilt like a steering wheel, or use the Wii remote and nunchuck, neither of which offer the finesse you need to steer a car. Drifting is unpredictable, and can send you anywhere, and the weapons on the track you can use are barely of any use. The speakers item, which I suppose are meant to knock about any driver that gets into range, only seem to throw me about whenever I try to use them near anyone else. In the 4th race of every championship, you have to contend with a boss, who will sit on the track at a certain point and launch weapons at you when you drive past, which is more annoying than anything else. On the 3rd and final lap, you get a scripted quick time event, where you must press a button combination to beat the boss. If you fail it, even if you win the race, you will have to repeat the race until you defeat the boss and place in the top 3 at the same time, which is very annoying. You can blast through the story mode in under 2 hours, and unlock bonus tracks depending on what difficulty you completed the story mode on. There's also your standard multiplayer mode, which I suppose is the best way to play these games, but geez, this is a bad game. Coming out on the system which has Mario Kart as well, there's just no way you would choose this game over Mario Kart, unless you found this in a bargain bin, which I assume is where it went. Next, we have Heathcliff Spot On, released in 2013 for the Nintendo DS as a downloadable DSiWare title. This one's nice and easy. It's Heathcliff Frantic Foto, just with a name change. There's no other difference that I could find. It was published by a different publisher, so maybe someone just decided to re-release it as a cheaper downloadable title, which makes sense I guess, as it's not the type of game you would probably pay full price for. Given that the DS eShop has closed down, you're not going to be picking this version up anytime soon, no matter how desperate you are for a game of Spot the Difference. Finally, and debatably a game, we have Hidden Object Heathcliff Christmas Time, a mobile app released in 2017. Taking a break from Spot the Difference games, we have an object hunt game, where we have to find the objects hidden in the piles of Heathcliff comics with a Christmas theme. Across the 7 levels, 15 if you pay for the full version, you'll have a selection of items to find, and each time you play the level, the required items change, so there's some replayability at least. You can also choose to find items by their pictures, silhouettes, words, or a random mix of all of these, so there's even more variety. Once again though, we've got a game, or app, with very little gameplay. There we go, we made it through every Heathcliff game. What can I say about this lot? There's barely any gameplay in any of them, let alone good gameplay. The only one which you might call a real game, that it offers actual gameplay distinct from any other form of game or activity, is The Fast and the Furriest. But I would argue that's probably the worst game of the lot. I suppose if I were to pick the best, I'd have to choose Frantic Foto and Spot On. They're the same, it doesn't matter. They are, at least entertaining and challenging, even if they offer nothing new. I don't know what you would expect from a Heathcliff game. You certainly wouldn't be expecting him to teach children to spell, save the world from card-driving aliens, or just spotting the difference. But hey, at least we can still enjoy the comics, I think. Thanks for checking out this video game Odyssey 4, Heathcliff. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. You can also support the channel on Patreon for as little as £1 a month, and check out my Twitch channel where I live stream my playthroughs of the franchises featured in this series. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you for the next Video Game Odyssey.